Hi guys, welcome. Let's talk more about Qigong. All right, today's question, episode 55. His name is at dot 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 dot. Okay. 3 days ago. Hi, teacher Adam. Can you help? I've tried. Okay. A month ago, I recently started sitting 1 to 2 hour of meditation 3 times a week. That's awesome. Good job, man. As part of an internal martial art program of study. Oh. It's a Chinese Buddhist form. However, as a Westerner, I'm not physically used to sitting cross-legged for the first time in my life, and therefore my feet and my legs up to the hip are going numb. Then take at least a couple of minutes of patting and massaging to wake them up afterwards. During the meditation, I can feel the numbness setting in, and it's very distracting. What do you advise? Oh, that's a good question, because it's common. So, you can work on your flexibility, get a good stretching program, join a yoga class, get a ball. If you don't know how to do it, get a personal trainer, make an appointment that can teach you how to use a ball to self-induce a deep tissue muscular massage. That will increase all your flexibility. Flexibility works really good in your hip area, and that will help your sitting practices. So that's one approach you can take, and I definitely recommend it. Flexibility is good for us. But another way you can do this, especially if you're older, is to consider different possibilities of sitting in meditation. Because a lot of times when people don't do meditation, sitting practices, they might assume that is all cross-legged because of posters and movies and stuff. But in reality, throughout the history of Chinese systems, since we're talking about, Chinese Buddhist form of meditation, there's actually many ways of sitting, thank God, because we all get older and sometimes we have physical handicaps or just maybe the limitation of the way we're born with our hips, right? So different sitting practice is really important. In fact, before the Tang Dynasty, I think it was, in China, there were no chairs. They would just sit cross-legged, like you see the Buddhists do. They'll just sit cross-legged on the floor, or they'll kneel, which you see modern Japanese and Korean people still do. And the sitting wasn't done with a bench either. Like right now, I'm sitting on a meditation bench, right? You can get these on Amazon. You can get it on any meditation store. Works really good. I love sitting on it. But before in the Tang Dynasty, they didn't have meditation benches that I'm sitting on. They would just literally kneel on their ankles, right? So you got kneeling and you got cross-legged. Thousands, or I actually don't remember the exact number, but that was like pre-Tang Dynasty. So during the Tang Dynasty, Chinese people start sitting on chairs. So basically you get the three possibilities of sitting from a Chinese point of view, not because of actual human possibility, but because of historical data we have, which is sitting cross-legged on the floor. You have kneeling on a bench. Well, nowadays we use a bench, before they didn't. And then you have sitting on a chair. Which one's the best? The good thing is, if your hips are hurting and you're getting numb and bad blood flow, the good thing is you have different options. So from a best point of view, if sitting cross-legged hurts you, you can increase your flexibility like I talked about earlier. And if it doesn't work, you can go to kneeling on a bench or you can go into sitting on a chair. Both are extremely comfortable compared to being cross-legged on the floor because the way your hips are positioned. When you're in a kneeling bench like the one I'm sitting on now, it's designed in a way, in the proper angle, that the hip in relation to the knees. So the hip is actually higher than the knee, which reduces the pressure that you feel on your hip joints. Your hip joints as well as your lower back and your tailbone. That makes it really comfortable. So kneeling on a bench would be something I recommend. You can check with your instructor if that's okay. If he comes from a tradition that's okay, then go ahead and try it, right? Second thing is, very common in Chinese system after the Tang Dynasty is sitting in a chair, which works really good for people that are older. Because when they're older, even sitting on a meditation bench like this can sometimes hurt their kneecaps. I notice for students over 65-ish or 70, they start to go, hey, the kneeling bench stuff doesn't work out for me. My knees are sore afterwards, even if I put a cushion underneath it. So sitting in a chair becomes more natural. So that's the third way to sit. And the fourth way to sit is also equally common. Is not only do you sit in the chair, but you line up your back straight against the chair rest. So you're resting your back. So now you got four ways of sitting, right? And then if you look at sitting on your cross-legged position, and also that's the only one you can do it with. You can also sit with your back resting on a wall. So you got cross-legged position, cross-legged leaning on a wall, kneeling bench. You can't really lean on a wall with this. And then you have sitting on a chair, and then you have sitting on a chair, leaning on a chair rest. So you got 5 ways of sitting you can experiment with to see which one works best for you in terms of deleting the joint pain. The long-term solution is just do a lot of deep tissue massage and a lot of stretching. That way you can sit in any position you like without pain. But the short-term solution, maybe for a couple of years, is just to take the 5 possibilities of sitting and see which one hurts you less or which one doesn't hurt at all. So that's from a physicality point of view in terms of muscle, joints, fascia, and tendons. But if I talk about it from an energy point of view, this is equally important, if not more important. Because if we simplify it to cross-legged sitting, sitting on a kneeling bench, and sitting on a chair, energetically they're very different, at least for beginners, for the first 10 years. So, and here's the reason why. When you're sitting, the first type of sitting you learn, I can't really speak for Buddhism, so I'm just, at all, respectfully, so I'm just going to talk about Taoism and only original Taoism. Anything else I'm not qualified to talk about. So in original Taoism, when we first sit, it is done with a container like holding a ball in different positions. So you're working your arms when you're holding the ball in all sorts of positions. It mirrors the exact hand position as standing Qigong practice. So standing Qigong is really for physical energy boost, and sitting practice is really for spirituality. In between the two would be sitting in a chair with your arms up. So the upper body actually resembles all the standing practice. So when you stand, you get 70% Ming, according to Professor Zheng, a medical professor at Qigong, one of my teachers. He said when you're standing, you're getting 70% Ming. Ming in Chinese means physical energy boost, or physical being, or physical well-being. And you get 30% Sing. Sing is your original nature, is a spiritual part of Qigong. So basically when you stand, you get 70% physical, 30% spiritual. But when you're doing sitting, he says, it's the opposite. 70% spiritual, 30% you get physical benefits. When you're sitting in a chair, it's pretty much 50-50. And the main reason is when you're sitting in a chair, your legs are not cut off. Your legs are feeding into the ground like an antenna, right? So your legs are active when you're sitting in a chair. The muscles are relaxed, the joints are relaxed, but energetically they're still working like an antennas. And of course your arms are working because you're holding a ball or in different positions, depending on which one you're working on that day. So sitting in a chair, you're still using your arms and legs, right? And then later on, when you get better and your physical, like your lower burner is starting to filled up, so to speak, and you're starting to get a lot of physical energy, you move on to the other 2 centers for emotional healing and spirituality. You're not really concerned about physical health anymore once you pass that level. So you start working on hand positions that you see a lot that is close to the body. You're no longer extending it like a ball. And the reason is you're not concerned about the blood flow going into your fingertips, like a branch of a tree, into your pores and your arms and your legs for physical power. Because now you're into spiritual work, so all the hand position becomes close to the body. And the reason is you want it close to the central channel because you want it close to the heart and the head so you can merge upward. All the work becomes vertical. You're not concerned about the horizontal plane anymore. So if everything's vertical, naturally the arms are cut off. That's what they say in the scripture. You're cutting off your arms. You're not extending them anymore. You're cutting them off. It's now really close to your body. All the hand positions are very close to the body. In fact, if you look at most of the spiritual hand position, most of them are very tight on the body for a reason. You're cutting off your arms. But you're still using your legs when you're sitting in a chair, right? But if you're kneeling on a kneeling bench, basically now from your knee down, you're cutting off your legs. So you already cut off your arms, And now you're cutting off from your knees down, you're cutting off your legs. And if you progress to sitting in a lotus position, cross-legged position on the floor, you basically cut off your entire leg. Your spine is sitting on the floor. You cut off your legs, and you already cut off your arms with the arm position. So you cut off your arm and legs. Basically, you're isolating the highway. You're isolating just the spine now. It's just your spine sitting on the floor. So now what happens is, anytime you isolate something, you amplify the crap out of it. So now your ability to merge becomes a lot quicker and a lot more powerful. But this is only true if you already did a lot of standing practice and you have enough juice. For most people, if they just isolate their spine, they'll fall asleep right away, which is a common problem when people message me like, Adam, I just started meditation and I'm falling asleep. It's because you haven't done any standing practice. The tradition you belong to is probably just sitting, which historically usually ruins the body if it's overindulged. So anyways, I hope I answered that question. So to recap, basically, if it's the physical numbness and pain that you're concerned about, simply experiment with the 5 possibilities of sitting and find which one doesn't cause you pain in the short term. If, on the other hand, you have a long time to invest, then you shouldn't have to look at the 5 possibilities to see which one doesn't hurt you. You can simply increase the crap out of your flexibility through stretching and deep tissue massage, and then you can sit any way you like in any position you feel like. So that's all physical. But if it is the more important energetic aspect that you're concerned about, then it's vital for you to understand why you're doing something and not just follow orders. In that case, sitting in a chair, you can cut off your arms, but you can't cut off your legs. Sitting in a kneeling position, you can cut off your arms and you can cut off your legs from the knees down. In lotus position, you can cut off your arms and your legs. That's why historically it is the most powerful out of the 3 of them. But there's a catch. Because it is the most powerful in terms of isolating your spine, it is also the easiest one for people to fall asleep unless they have a background in standing practice. So, everything in balance. Anyways, I hope I answered your question. If you have any more questions, any of you, you can leave it in the comment below. We can continue the conversation. Also, before I go, I want to say, what do I want to say? I always forget, so I wrote it down this time. Yeah, next class is Thursday. We're going to be working on more kneeling down Qigong. So if you're interested in kneeling down Qigong, that's what we'll be working on. And based on the things that I described today and more. Also, the program in the Taoist community or the online Qigong school that I'm running, the features are, some of you asked, we train live stream 1 class a week together. Half the class is going to be guided meditation or guided Qigong. We train laying down, sitting down, standing, and moving and walking Qigong, rotating in a cycle. Half the class is live Q&A, so I can give personalized coaching. There's a private student forum that we can share and learn together. And there's probably a few more things I'm forgetting. So you can follow the link below in the description and read about it. Hope to see you there. Have a good night, guys.